So, going to record, like I said, for all of our new members. So, welcome to our November orientation that we're having an orientation each month for new people in Young Democrats of South Carolina. And some of our current members will be joining as well to kind of learn about YDSC. And then what we're going to do each month is bring a special guest speaker to talk about their experience in the Young Democrats of South Carolina. So, we'll definitely allow our new people to ask questions as well. And so I am Jenny Ashley. I serve as president of the Young Democrats of South Carolina, she, her, and I'm going to turn it over to our first vice president to introduce our guest speaker for today. So I'm going to turn it over to Sam Grant.
Hello, everyone. So for those who may not know me, as Jenny said, I'm Samuel Grant, the first vice president of Young Democrats of South Carolina. And today I have the honor and privilege of introducing our guest speaker, none other than the legendary Congressman James Clyburn. So the Congressman has been serving South Carolina's 6th congressional district since 1993. And Congressman Clyburn has also served as the Majority Whip of the House since 2019, a position he previously held from 2007 to 2011. So it's very rare that we get to hear from a leader who enacts national change and just speak with them face to face. And just most recently, we saw Congressman Clyburn playing an instrumental role alongside House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in securing the votes needed to pass the historic bipartisan infrastructure bill, as well as Build Back Better. And this is just one example of the hard work that Majority Whip Clyburn puts in and day out in the halls of Congress for his constituents, but really all South Carolinians. So Congressman Clyburn, on behalf of the entirety of Young Democrats in South Carolina, I just want to thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. And so without further ado, it is my honor to introduce former president of South Carolina Young Democrats, Congressman for the 6th District and Majority Whip for the House, the Honorable James Clyburn.
Well, thank you very much, Sam. I hope that I'm being heard pretty well. I'm home alone and trying to navigate these computer systems. I'm now on my iPad after I couldn't get my desktop to work. So I hope it's working okay. But forgive me if things go awry. Help me get back on track. Let me thank all of you who are tuning in today, and not just for your willingness to be a part of South Carolina Young Democrats, but also your willingness to be a part if you happen to get our country back on track. And I say that because over during the 4 years of the previous administration, this country got off track. And I think that you would have to be a little bit non-observant not to know that last January 6th was a very, very consequential day in the life of our democracy. When I was growing up over in Sumter, I remember very well getting started in activism. I was elected president of my young, well, let's call it NAACP Youth Council is what we called it. I was only 12 years old. I was very active. This was the lead up to Brown v. Board of Education, which was taking place over in Somerton, just 22 miles away. I remember my dad praying every morning for Reverend J. DeLand and the people of Clarendon County for what they were going through back then. They were not fighting to integrate the schools. All they wanted was a school bus. Kids were walking 9 miles to school in the mornings and 9 miles back in the afternoon. The white kids had buses, but these Black kids did not have a school bus. That was what our state was doing. My own father was not allowed to graduate from college, though he had spent 3 successful years, because the state would not allow him to graduate from high school. in Kershaw County, where he grew up, they did not allow high school for blacks. You couldn't go to school if you were black beyond the 7th grade. And so my dad self-taught until he could master the grammar and the math and whatever, and took a college entrance exam and passed it. But because he did not have a high school diploma, they would not let him go into his senior year of college. Morris College finally awarded my dad his degree 25 years after he passed away. So what changed all that? The change came with this country's Democratic Party. I want to repeat that. Democratic Party. Look up the charter. When this party was chartered in the early 1800s, it was the Democratic Party, not the Democrat Party, as our Republicans so derisively say, the Democratic Party. And we ought to start saying that. Stop saying, mimicking what the Republicans do. They say little things to be derisive and insulting, and they say it often enough until a lot of people allow themselves to pick up the terms. And I've seen that happen with the name of our party. I'm pointing all this out to you because I think that we need to look at the history of this party and be proud of it. When I was growing up, my mom and dad, they were members of the Party of Lincoln, because at the time that they were coming along, and when I was coming along, it was not until 1948 that the South Carolina Democratic Party even allowed Black people in it. It was a private club, chartered to be white only. And so when the courts struck down that private club business and opened the party up for everybody, everybody came into the party. And those people who did not like that, they left the Democratic Party and took over the Republican Party. That's what happened. Strom Thurmond was a Democrat back in 1948 when he walked out of the Democratic Convention. And he walked out of the Democratic Convention because he didn't like the speech that Hubert Humphrey gave, calling for the Democratic Party to open itself up for everybody. He left and formed the States' Rights Party and ran for president against Harry Truman. Harry Truman was elected president in 1948. And when Harry Truman got elected, it was Harry Truman, that a Democrat, that signed the executive order that integrated the armed services. It was Harry Truman, the Democrat, that proposed the first civil rights committee, or committee to work on equal rights of people of color. And Strom Thurmond and others didn't like that. So after the election, he came back into the party. He left again. 1964 Civil Rights Act, 1965 Voting Rights Act, 1968 Fair Housing Laws. Democrats did that. And we should be proud of that. And I cringe when I hear so many people today derisively referring to the Democratic Party, picking up on the rhetoric of the other side. I want somebody to show me one piece of legislation champion the equality of all people that was proposed, sponsored, and brought into law by the Republican Party. Please show me. And I always say the best way to tell what people will do is look at what they have done. And so if you look at the history of who has been the champion of liberty and justice for all, that's the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. It closes with that phrase, liberty and justice for all. Ask your Republican friends. I don't care what they're running for. They can run for the Senate, for the Congress, for governor, or even for mayor. I watched the recent election here and see people with little personal things, mad with somebody over some little personal thing, and allow the city of Columbia to be taken by a Republican. And it's all over the national news. Every time I pick up something this morning, they talk about how Republicans in Columbia took over the government while we get angry about little silly things. When Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965, he said at the time that he knew that by signing that law, that he would be giving up his party's dominance in the South for at least a generation. He was right. He was more than a generation. And it's not over anything but equal rights for all. And so those experiences, I came into South Carolina Young Democrats in my 20s. I was elected state president of South Carolina Young Democrats when I was 31 years old, back in 1971. I've always been proud of my relationship with the Democratic Party, proud of my service as South Carolina Young Democrats. I took that with me. Last weekend, I was in Texas. I was in Houston, Dallas, and Beaumont. And I'm proud to report to you that the chairman of the Beaumont, that county's Democratic Party, was a young white guy named Joe Trahan. Joe's about 25, 26 years old, chair of the party. And just a magnificent chair. He had about 800 people at the dinner I spoke to. Then the next morning I went to Harris County. The chair of the Harris County party is around 30, 31 years old, young African-American, Odom. I'm saying Odom, that's his first name. His last name is something else, but it's an African name that I can't pronounce. But doing great work. There's a big youth movement in the Democratic Party. People who have decided that they're going to step outside of their comfort zones, who've decided that this country's democracy is worth saving. They've decided that January 6th was a wake-up call for everybody, except those people who want to see an autocracy put in place. This autocratic proposals that these guys are pushing is dangerous. It's dangerous for the country. I saw a headline earlier this week. An independent writer, not a political writer, but an observer of the political scene. And here's what the headline said: that Democrats stand to lose in 2022 and in 24. And if they do, democracy will be lost. Here are independent observers saying it's the Democratic Party that's got to save this democracy. Young Democrats, older Democrats, all Democrats. The Republican Party has turned itself into a cult. They are a cult. I'm not the only one saying that. I've been saying it for a long time. I said back in 2018 that 45 had no plans to give up the presidency. The Post and Courier ran a big story, and a lot of people called me a lot of nasty names when I said it. That was 2018, the night before he gave his speech to the Congress. I said, in fact, the reporter asked me, Don Lemon on CNN, are you calling this man Hitler? I says, no, I'm not calling him Hitler. I'm calling him Mussolini. Putin is Hitler. A lot of people got upset when I said that. But now every time I look around, there are people now saying that the Republican Party has turned itself over to one autocrat. Young Democrats, a lot is resting on you. It's not the first time this has happened. When young Bernard Phelan and I joined the South Carolina Young Democrats through Charleston County Young Democrats, we used to go to the meetings. He and his wife, Conchetta, he and my late wife, Emily, we used to be the only 4 Black people in the meetings every month. And that went on for a long, long time. But we changed that. And you can change things. I want to close with this and answer the question you may have. This is a great country. Does not have to be made great. This country's challenge is to make its greatness accessible and affordable for all of its citizens. That's our challenge. Don't let people take you off on tangents about making the country great again. That was done a long, long time ago. Your job as Young Democrats is to make the greatness of this country accessible and affordable for all of its citizens. If it's healthcare, ask yourself, is it accessible and affordable for all? If it's education, ask yourself, is it accessible and affordable for all? If it's housing, just ask yourself, is it accessible and affordable for all? And if it is not, your job is to make it so. Thank you for having me, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna turn it over to Kevin to introduce himself and navigate the questions, because I want to shine a light on our outreach, our second VP, who used to be our outreach director.
Well, thank you very much. Like she said, my name is Kevin Ecker. I am the second vice president for the Young Democrats South Carolina. I'm also part of the Sumter Clarendon Young Democrats. And so one of the things I do a lot is I do a lot of outreach. I try to start new chapters in counties where we might not have chapters. And so does anyone have any questions? I'll take that as a no.
I have a question.
Yes.
What do we do to bring back hope? Because I feel like what we've been hearing a lot from 2020's election is people feel hopeless. And then with the elections in 2021, losing Virginia, losing in Columbia, in Georgetown, and in Aiken County, New Ellington, losing Democratic seats, I'm finding that people feel hopeless, and young people are feeling hopeless. Like there's no point in trying in 2022 because the red wave is coming. So what would you give us advice to hold on to hope?
Well, you just got to get engaged. You know, we're all South Carolinians. Even though I know that some may have just gotten here, welcome to Horry County is no longer in my district, but welcome to South Carolina. I know it's one young lady that just got to Horry County. You know, our state's motto is, as I breathe, I hope. As I breathe, I hope. You shouldn't lose hope. And in order to hold on to it, you get involved and you really work. I mean, work. You put aside these little differences. You know, we were under threat a couple of weeks ago of not passing the so-called infrastructure bill. 8 o'clock Friday before last, 8 a.m., I met with the so-called moderates in our caucus. And I said to them, we've got to pass this bill today. And in order for us to pass this bill, each one of you are going to have to get outside of your comfort zone. So we come to here, we're one big tent. We got all these caucuses. We got the Hispanic caucus. We got the Congressional Black Caucus, the Asian Pacific Island Caucus, the Blue Dogs, the Progressives, the New Dems. All of us are comfortable inside of our caucuses. But if we're going to be successful, we're going to have to get outside of our comfort zone. That was at 8 a.m. At 9 a.m., I sat down with the leadership of the Congressional Black Caucus. And I said to them, I, like you, are very comfortable with this caucus. But you and I are going to have to get outside of our comfort zones and meet on common ground with the Hispanic caucus, with the Asian Pacific Islanders, with the progressives, with the moderates. We all have got to find common ground and pass this law. And so what went on all day were meetings of the various caucuses trying to reconcile the differences and find common ground. And we did. And we passed the law. And we came back this Friday, yesterday, and passed the third law. The American Rescue Plan, we passed that back in March. And look what it did. It arrested the slide into poverty that so many families were on. Then we passed the infrastructure bill. And yesterday we passed the Build Back Better bill. I called it the third leg on the three-legged stool that not only balances platforms, but it brings balance to the lives of Americans. That's what we've got to do. We got to go out and talk about these things. And we got to get people to understand that these are programs brought to them by the Democratic Party. That's nothing to be ashamed of. First time when I ran down there in Charleston in 1970 for the state legislature, I was announced to win at 10 o'clock in the evening. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I got counted out. A lot of people wonder how that happened. I don't know how it happened. But all I said about it, I didn't get enough votes. I didn't get angry with anybody. I didn't go around calling people names. They said, well, you know what everybody's saying. I don't care what everybody's saying. All I know is I didn't get enough votes, and I plan to get enough the next time. I'll never forget. It was an elderly state senator. Some of you may remember his name, named Marshall Williams in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Marshall Williams came by my office after the governor arrested my slide and said he was not going to leave any wounded on the battlefield and appointed me to his office. Marshall Williams came into my office. He says, I know that what happened to you down there in Charleston was not right, but you stay involved and I want you to run again. And then he said this that I want to offer to each and every one of you, especially those of you who are running for office. He said, the next time you run, I want you to do three things. Number one, you tell the people what you're going to do for them. Number two, when you get elected, by God, you do it. Number three, and then you go back to them and tell them that you've done it. I have never forgotten that. But I see so often, and I'll close with this example. When Barack Obama ran for president, he told the people that if you elect me president, I'm going to make healthcare accessible and affordable. He got elected, and we passed the Affordable Care Act. And then he went off doing something else. Never went back to the people to tell them what we had done. We did not do that. And guess what? We passed that bill in early 2010. We went before the public in November 2010. Rather than take the time between the passage of the bill and the election to tell people what we'd done, we went off doing other stuff. And we lost 63 seats and lost our majority. We just passed three fantastic pieces of legislation. It's exactly what the public wants. Over 60% of the public want these bills. If we don't go out there now and tell people what we've done, of course now, the Senate hadn't passed the bill yet that we passed yesterday. I don't know what their version is going to be when they pass it. But I know one thing, we'd better pass it. And then we better go out there and tell the people that we did it. That's the only way to get people hopeful again. Tell them what you're going to do. Do it. And go back to them and tell them that you've done it.
I believe Judd Larkins had a question next.
Yes, I do there. Thank you, Kevin. For those that do not know me, my name is Judd Larkins, and I actually am a candidate for the 2nd congressional district. That's like Lexington and Aiken, Orangeville, Barnwell, and part of Richland. Oh, Representative Clyburn, I got a question, and you just answered kind of part of it with that last answer. But I know I am a first-time candidate, and there's a couple others on this call who will be first-time candidates here really soon in the future. So what sort of advice do you have for us?
My advice is simply this. If you were to read you don't have to read the whole book. But if you go to the epilogue in my book, published back in 2015, Blessed Experiences, is an open letter to my children and grandchildren and all others similarly situated. And in that open letter, I said this: if you plan to run a business, get to know the people that you want to buy your goods or services. If you plan to run for office, get to know the people you want to vote for you. I think the biggest mistake that candidates make is to try to get people to know them. rather than spend time getting to know the people. Get to know who they are, what their dreams and aspirations are, and what you can do to help them fulfill their dreams and aspirations. Your dream may be to serve in Congress. It was mine. But I didn't get there by trying to fulfill my dream. I got there by trying to find out what their dreams, what their aspirations were, and what I could do to help them fulfill their dreams and aspirations. This bill that we just passed yesterday, those of you who've been following this, you may remember. When we were first putting that bill together, and we were talking in the room, you weren't in the room, but everybody said, what's your priority? What you think we ought to do? I laid out. I said, we have got to make healthcare accessible and affordable. Now, the reason I was so hell-bent on that, my dad passed away back in 1978. But my dad used to say to me all the time, the most important thing to anybody is good health. If you take care of your health, you can be positioned to get and stay on a job, get an education. If your health ain't good, nothing else is going to be good. And that's been with me all of my life. And so I said to them, the first thing we got to do with this bill is fix this healthcare problem. South Carolina and 11 other states did not expand Medicaid. We got over 200,000 people in South Carolina with no health care at all. And we're telling people we want them to go back to work. Come on. Why should a 30 or 35-year-old go back to work if they don't have health care? Because they're on these contract jobs, a lot of them, that don't provide health care for them. So you get a headache, something goes wrong, everything is bad. So what I would say to any young person running, you running in the 2nd Congressional District, look, you were in Aiken last night, 2nd Congressional District, I don't know, maybe you live in Lexington, Richland, Barnwell. Spend some time down there in Barnwell, rural part of the county. Those people want broadband. That's why number one with me, with healthcare, number two with me was broadband. Broadband. That first bill we passed is already now law, signed by the president last Monday. $65 billion for broadband. And the governor. I just read it, I held on to it because a lot of people think I'm making this stuff up. But I got a telephone call from the governor of South Carolina, thanking me for the role I played because someone wrote about what happened in those meetings I just told you about. I don't know why people keep leaking stuff out of the meetings, but they do. And so he called and he told me on the call, says, I'm going to use $1.6 billion of this money to fix malfunction junction. And I just wanted you to know that. And then he said to me, and all other officials said, the money that would be coming to South Carolina under this bill should be in the neighborhood of $100 million. And it's going to be enough for us to build out the rest of the homes in South Carolina they'll connect them to the internet. So I would go out, for me, meeting with small groups. I would be worrying about whether I can buy TVS. Let me tell you something. That's the one thing that you can save money on. All this money about how many television hits you get, That's not what connects to people. You go out, you find out. Let me tell you, you know, what I found out about the TV stuff. When my late wife was had a stroke, her social club started meeting in our home every week. They used to go around each other's homes every Thursday. After she had the stroke, they started meeting here in this house. And I would come home a lot of times on Thursdays, and they would be here. I always paid attention to what they were watching on television. TV would be on, and the programs that they were watching on TV, I seldom saw a television ad on, because they were in their upper 60s, 70s, and they were watching all the shows that 80% of the people were watching, but they were watching the shows that people who vote watch. So I started looking at that. So I'm telling you now, my advice is find out the people you want to vote for you, find out what their habits are, what their dreams and aspirations are, and then see what you can do for their habits, their dreams, their aspirations. Because if you sit back and wait on their what may be Republican voters running ads on Republican shows, you're not gonna do much about converting people. You got to turn out your vote. And that's where we're losing these elections. We're not turning out our votes. We're not connecting to our people. We're spending all our time trying to convert people who are not inclined to vote for you. That's a waste of time and money. Concentrate on people that you can get to vote for you if they get to the polls. Motivate. Motivation wins.
I think Lisa had a question next.
Thank you, Kevin. First and foremost, Congressman, it's very exciting to have a chance to pick your brain like this. My question is, moving here from Los Angeles to South Carolina and of course Horry County, it was pretty shocking about how deep the racial inequities really just permeated all through society here. And there are quite a few people with the privilege to feel immune to those inequities. And I've found it very frustrating to have conversations with them about those inequities. So what would you say is the way to speak with people who, they've been immune from the problems in society that as Democrats we like to talk about? Like, what is that inroad that you have found works?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because I think that it also made a chance to give you a very good example of what I'm talking about here. Think about this. A 65-year-old grandmother or mother with a 30-year-old daughter who working every day, trying to take care of her 1 or 2 children. And she is offered a choice. I can pass a law that will allow you, I'm talking about the 65-year-old here now, to get a new pair of eyeglasses or a hearing aid. Or I can pass a law that will give your daughter and her children health care. They don't have it. What do you think that 65-year-old grandmother is going to choose? She's going to choose my daughter being able to take care of her children. my daughter getting health care for herself and get the child tax credit for her children. If they're under 17, if both children are under 17, we'll be getting a check totaling around $900 every month to help her with her children. That's the choice that we were being forced to make. And that's why I was saying to people, they were telling me, we can make permanent this expansion of Medicare for seniors, but we cannot have Medicaid or expansion for young people. That's not a good deal. And so that's the kind of thing that we have to be careful about, and we have to look beyond the headline. You know, I'm eligible for Medicare, and I think I could use a hearing aid, but that's not priority with most families. Think about their family priorities. And I've been saying to people all the time, you know, I do things in threes. My dad was a minister, and he always talked about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So I do things in threes. And I say to people, okay, here is what this program, this policy, this plan, here is what it will do for you. Here is what it would do for your family. And here's what it would do for your community. For you, your family, your community. Provide you with health care. Provide your children with the child tax credit. Provide your community with the internet. Broadband, if you please. If you show people that here in this program is health care for you, and that's what's in this bill, health care for them. We just extended, because the child tax credit expires on December the 31st. In this new plan that we just passed, child tax credit is extended in that plan. That's for their families. The money is there to do broadband. That's in their communities. If you go around showing people, here's what it's going to do for you, here's what it's going to do for your family, and here's what it's going to do for your community, we'll get connected to them, and they'll vote for us. But to sit back, talk about how many hits you get on television, and whether or not people like you, get out and show some love for them, and they'll take care of you.
Thank you.
Our first Vice President, Samuel Grant, has a question.
Hello, Congressman. So my question is essentially how could I try and appeal to students at my university to join Democrats? Just for context, I go to a rather conservative university, Charleston Southern. And while we've had a college Democrats chapter here before, and they've been active in previous years, really the problem is it keeps dying out. And it's sort of hard to find people here that would essentially want to side with us or express certain beliefs that would be considered of our party just because of the conservative school that we're at. So how do you feel like I would best go about doing that and try to engage people?
Well, first of all, Sam, it ain't gonna be easy. And that's not what you're asking for, what's easy. What can you do? First of all, I think that there are always 2 or 3 people of like minds that can come together. And I think you have to really spend time, not just, as I said earlier, what makes you comfortable. Think about how you might be able to secure more participation if you give up some of your comfort. Now, what do I mean by that? I often tell people, you know, I'm in here with some light bulbs over me. This is an example I've been using of late. And quite frankly, I thought it was rather corny. And I was a little bit reluctant to use this example. But yesterday, on the floor of the House, one of the real progressives, one member of the so-called squad, I know y'all been hearing about them. I'm sitting there talking with a member, and she came up and was leaning over my left shoulder. And she said, I followed you in Texas last weekend. I said, I didn't know what you were talking about. Well, she said when she landed in Texas, she saw somebody at the airport who had just attended something that I did down in Beaumont. And they told her, she said, about an example that I use that taught them so much. And she told me what it was. And I'm gonna share it with you and other listeners. I said down in Texas the other day, and I've said this often, and some of you may have heard me say this, that these lights that keep me from looking at only a silhouette, as you all watch this, they've got little bulbs in them. And you were taught in school, like I was, that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. And that's why we can see, to read and do whatever we need lights for. And they're right about that. But what you were not taught in school was that Thomas Edison, having invented the light bulb, couldn't get it to work. It would come on, but he couldn't keep it on. It wouldn't stay on. And someone told Thomas Edison, there's a guy up there in Massachusetts that you ought to go up and meet. His name is Lewis Latimer. He has invented a filament. That filament, if you put that filament in your bulb, it might make the bulb work. Thomas Edison, a white guy, had to get outside of his comfort zone and went up to Massachusetts and met with Lewis Latimer, the black guy, the son of former slaves, who had invented this filament. And Thomas Edison's light bulb, Lewis Latimer's filament went into it, and it worked. And we've lit the world. We can't let people force us into these false reactions. When you hear people talking about critical race theory, I used to teach school. I taught right down there in Charleston where you are. I ain't never taught no theory. You don't teach theory to high school or elementary school kids. Theory is taught on college campuses and university campuses, the university think tanks. You teach facts to children, and it's a fact that Thomas Edison, a white guy, invented the light bulb. But it's also a fact that Lewis Latimer, the black guy, did the filament. And it was not until that filament got put in the light bulb that Thomas Edison's light bulb worked. But people don't know that. We have to share with people that, yeah. And when you're talking to students on the campus, talk facts. Let people know that I'm not here to embarrass you or to shame you as these right wingers are saying. No, I'm here to enlighten you. Who was it? Alexis de Tocqueville, who wrote, America's greatness is not that it is more enlightened than any other nation, but rather because it has always been able to repair its faults. That's what makes us great as a nation, to repair our faults. And when you sit down with people and says, look, please tell me, why do you object to healthcare being made affordable for little children born in poverty? Why would you object to housing being made affordable? Why is it that only people who can afford to pay $100 a square foot or $200 a square foot for a house be the one to have housing? Why can't we come up with methods and theories and practices that will allow people who cannot afford to pay more than $50 or $60 a square foot a house, make housing affordable and accessible? That's what you have to do. Look at the stuff that we can really improve people's lives. You ain't gonna get everybody, because there's somebody that just caught up on race. Race is first and foremost with just too many people in America, I think. But that's not true with everybody. So you'll get some people, you ain't gonna get everybody, because some people are just don't have, as we say, aren't wrapped too tight.
I believe Lisa has another question.
I do. I have questions for days if you guys want me. My next question is a little bit of a different turn. While I applaud those who are looking to run for office, that's not for all of us. And like for people like me whose backgrounds are public affairs and campaigns and want to bring that to South Carolina, whether it's locally or for South Carolina representation at the federal level, my question is, what do you wish that your team or those staff around you knew when starting to get involved in South Carolina politics that you would relay to us?
Well, I want to thank you. That's an interest that we Democrats need more people involved with us, because you support, one of the examples I put in my book, the last time I went to jail for challenging segregation in South Carolina was right here in Columbia. And it was an interesting thing when I went to jail that time. I had not planned to go to jail that day. I was going to help the students get organized. And I was going back over to Orangeburg, where I was at South Carolina State. But then the high school that I graduated from over in Camden, Mather Academy, doesn't exist anymore. But at the time, some students came over from Mather and they wanted me to lead their group. So I went over to them and I told them, I said, okay, now I'm gonna lead you all. But I don't have time to spend in jail now. Y'all need to go back to school. So when we are asked to turn around, we're going to turn around. And we made that deal. But we started out, we got down to the State House. Sure enough, we were stopped and asked to go back. And when I turned around, they said, oh, no, we ain't going back. They were just yelling, no. So we all ended up in jail. Now, that night, around 2 o'clock in the morning, one of those students who just allowed us out there about not turning around got a little scared. And I was laying on my cot, looking at the ceiling. He walked over to me and he says, Clyburn, I thought we were going to get out of jail. I said, yeah, we're going to get out. And he said, when? I said, we're going to get out in the morning. I said, Reverend Newman is out raising the bail money, and he'll come and bail us out in the morning. So he walked away. He came back a little later. He's not, Clyburn, who did you say was out raising the bail money? I said, Reverend Newman. He said, well, is he that little man with the goatee? I said, yeah. He back over in that corner over there. Lo and behold, Newman was in jail with us. And I often told him, right up to his death, that he had no business in jail. My job was to go to jail. His job was to raise the bail. We were 3 days in jail before we got out because he didn't do his job. He was out there doing my job. Leave my job to me. You do your job and we can succeed. So whoever the candidate is should spend his or her time being a good candidate and need to come get you to go out and do the public relations, the public affairs, the media, and that kind of stuff. So we need everybody chipping in, playing their roles. So I need you. I don't know who's going to be running down there in the 7th. I know that they got a very spirited campaign going on. Tom Rice has made a bunch of people mad. The Republicans want in and invite him to their Republican affairs. He's their incumbent. I understand there are 10 or 12 people running. And they'll come up with somebody. I don't know who the Democrat is going to be, but the Democratic Party has to be involved down there. And I would say that you find somebody to hitch your star to early, and let's win. Because I really believe that we are going to surprise a lot of people next year, because I think we're going to get our act together. It ain't together yet, but I think we'll get our act together. By the time we come out of our Democratic convention next May, Trav Robinson is going to do his job. I'm going to do my job. And hopefully you're going to do your job. And we're going to get some good candidates who will do their jobs. And we will go out here and win some races. And we're going to do that all over the country. I know we're going to have some real challenging redistricting plans to run in. But I'll never forget, in 2006, we ran in some districts that people thought we couldn't win in. And we won in a bunch of them, and we took back the majority in 2006. That's how I became, the whip the first time.
Thank
I understand. I think I just saw something in the chat. There's 11 Republicans that are running and only one Democrat.
Yeah.
Well,
But also,
that makes it easy for you.
Right? Only one to go, which begs the question for me. And I think we've had this issue in Ori, though I've only been here for a couple months. I hear we've had this issue for a long time, is recruiting people locally, whether it's, I'm a firm believer that progressive PTA parents and churchgoers and whatnot would make great local candidates. But in terms of recruiting those folks who would be willing to make the real sacrifices that entail running and then being elected, what would you tell someone who is considering running for office in a fairly Republican area, to help them feel more comfortable doing so, besides having, folks like the Young Dems behind them to help?
Yeah. Well, people, you got to be willing to, let's just say, reach out to people who may not be of the same background, with the same experiences that you have. I would tell anybody, if you plan to run for office, really, as I said earlier, study the terrain, study the demographics, get to know who people are, get to know what the needs are in these communities. Now, if a person's not willing to commit the time and effort to doing that, they probably are not run. But I would say that's the first thing you got to do. You know, get to know the area and what the people's dreams and aspirations are, but also the needs in these communities. I was kind of surprised when in my caucus one day, I was talking about, they were talking about Social Security being the greatest poverty program ever created. That was given to me in some notes. And I asked them how they reached that conclusion. And so they told me how. And I said, but did you know that when Social Security first came online, it did not cover domestic workers and it did not cover farm workers? This was a member of Congress that I'm talking to. Did not know that. I said, well, now, at the time Social Security came online back in the 1930s, 65% of the Black people in the South either were farm workers or domestic workers. So Social Security did not cover 65% of the Black people living in the South. The retirement age of the eligibility age for Social Security was 65. The life expectancy for Black people at the time was 59. I said, so how do you reach that conclusion? You reach that conclusion simply because you don't know. Okay. If you knew, you would not have reached that conclusion. So that's what we've got to do if you're going to be a candidate. Get to know what it is you're running for and how people's dreams and aspirations can be addressed by those things. It'll be pretty embarrassing to any candidate to walk in the room that I'm sitting in and start talking about Social Security. If I'm sitting in the audience, I'm gonna say that candidate. Let me ask you a question. And I would ask the same questions I just asked you. There are a lot of people who are sitting up in the Congress that didn't know that. You know what it's gonna look like, and they're gonna look real foolish when they walk out the meeting and I'm sitting in, and I remind them that you can't come here talking about what Social Security did, because it didn't do. That's why you hear me say a lot of times that the so-called New Deal was a raw deal for a lot of the communities that I represent, because Social Security was a part of the New Deal. So get to know the community, get to know the people, get to know what the issues are, get to know what, just to jump out there and run it and not know what these issues are. Things will get very uncomfortable very early.
Thank you. Also, some very good life advice peppered throughout that. So thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
We've been here for an hour and 8 minutes, right?
Well, swear, I could listen to you for 8 hours a day.
Get
like
out
I
of
could
here.
just
Jenny, I know. You have been listening to me for what, 8 years? How many years?
Yeah, it's probably been like almost 8, 9 years.
Yeah. Well, let me thank you for your tremendous commitment to not just the Young Dems, but to the South Carolina Democratic Party. You have been a real treasure. I certainly treasure your work. And though I may not tell you every time I see you, please know that I really appreciate you and appreciate what you do, not just for our party, but for South Carolinians. This is a state that has a lot of promise that is yet to be fulfilled. And let me say to all of you as I sign off here, I quoted earlier or made reference to our motto as a state. A lot of people don't know this either, but South Carolina has two mottos, really two official mottos. As I breathe, I hope is one of them. But the other one is prepared in mind and resources. I want you to think about that. Prepared in mind and resources. That talks about our abilities, our intellect, and the fact that the resources. So think about that too as you run for office and what you can do to further that second motto. Help people get prepared in mind. Help provide the resources that people need to further their aspirations. So don't just remember, as I breathe, I hope. Be prepared in mind and resources. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate spending this time with you. Now I'm gonna go back to watching football.
Yay, football. That's a South Carolina thing, Lisa. You'll see that too. We're all about football.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Oh, your sound went out, Lisa. I'm not sure what you're saying. No, we still can't hear you. I think maybe your AirPods went out or something. I don't know. Well, thank you so much, Congressman Clyburn, and as we said, our former president. So we'll always make sure to make sure people know about your start in Young Democrats and everything. And yeah, so we just really appreciate all your time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Walter, for helping set this up. You're awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, feel free if y'all want to stay on, we're just going to tell you a little bit about YDSC and next steps to get involved. Thank you.
Well,
so
thank
much.
you, Jenna, and thank you, AC. Well, you call him Walt, I call him AC. I've entrusted my re-election to him. So those of you who may have advice for me as to what I need to do when I need to do it, get in touch with AC or Walter and tell him what he needs to do.
Well, you heard it here. No TV ads. So I love it. All right.
Some, not you know, I don't have anything against TV ads.
Yeah.
I just have it. To me, you have to allocate resources. You know, I always hop on 3 E's. You know, you've heard about 3 hours all your lives, but I deal with the 3 E's. Things must be done efficiently. They should be done effectively, and it must be done equitably. Those are the 3 E's that I hop on. So if you're gonna run an efficient campaign, you've got to balance that efficiency with effectiveness. And TV can help get the word out, but TV, unless you get the right ad, TV informs. You got to get people motivated. Once they're informed, and that's what you use TV for, you got to put the resources out there to motivate people and get them to the polls. And equity means that you allocate those resources in an equitable way. This whole notion about where you spend that money, equity has to come into play. And you got to spend as much money in the neighborhood on the other side of the tracks where all those registered voters are, but had not been motivated. So I think you get my drift.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys.
Plus, you can fast forward commercials nowadays. Hey.
All right.
All
See you now.
right. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Okay.
Let's see. Yep, he got logged off. Awesome. All right. Thank you all again for attending. Lisa, you said you're involved in the Grand Strand Young Dems with DeVita.
Yeah. First and foremost, can you hear me now?
Yes, there you are.
Of course, of course. Yes, so I am. I work with DeVita. We're working on a couple different things, and then her and I and some others, of course, with the Horry County Dem Party. So have been involved here, and just kind of keeping that ball rolling.
Awesome, awesome. And then Cadence, were you interested in joining the Low Country chapter or the Beaufort chapter? Like, which one would you want to look at?
Honestly, I I don't know. I bounce in between. I'm at the College of Charleston right now.
Okay.
So obviously I'm spending most of my time there. So probably the Low Country chapter.
Yeah, so
Yay!
that's
It's my chapter. Be glad to have you.
Go Loco.
Go
I know
Loco.
it's hard. I work the polls in Beaufort though whenever I am home. So it's like I'll just join the Low
We
Country
can do
one.
like we do with Sam. Sam goes to school
Yeah.
at Charleston Southern, but lives in Columbia. So we have joint custody with the Central Midlands.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Amy's the secretary, so that way y'all would. I would love for y'all to connect and definitely talk more about
definitely.
getting involved. And we have a holiday thing coming up on December 8th. I think we're gonna go to the Festival of Lights, right, Amy?
Yeah, we are. We're still trying to get the ins and outs of that, of where we're gonna meet up. But right now the plan is for us to meet up at a parking lot and basically coordinate a carpool to the Festival of Lights, because the way they do it is it's charged per car. So we want to make sure that, we get as many people in the cars. And I mean, nobody wants to drive through alone. So that way we get, 3 or 4 cars, however many people we have, and have the tickets or pay the fees. And then once you're done driving through the lights, which is about 2 miles or so, you can get out of your car and like walk around and go in the shops and have like a cup of hot chocolate or roast marshmallows or whatever. So, I mean, it should be a lot of fun. I haven't been to Festival Lights in a couple of years, so I'm excited to go back and to go with all the Young Democrats. So
Yeah, that sounds like tons of fun. I'll have to. My email's obviously within it. I don't know if there's a separate list I have to be a part of.
I will message you on here. And
Okay, cool. Yeah.
we'll get that set up.
Cool. Awesome.
Also, I would love to take this opportunity to go in and plug our college caucus in there. So in case I wonder where we're starting college caucus, it's for undergraduate, graduate, law, basically any higher education. So yeah, definitely if y'all are interested, please reach out. So we should be getting that up off the ground relatively soon, hopefully, when we get enough members to start a provisional caucus. But if y'all are interested, definitely reach out. We'd love to have you.
Which is Sam and Cadence, if you guys know any college kids out here, either where home is up here in Horry, or if they go to Coastal or HGTC or whatever it is, I am ferociously trying to get the county party here to get interns. So if we had kids who were really interested in being interns, I think that would also help. So do let me know.
And we collaborate with the college Dems, the high school Dems, the Democratic Women, and the state party. We are separate than all of them. So like we are separate than the county party. We are separate than all of them. But we've created this partnership with the high school and college Dems that if the college, some colleges don't allow college Democrat chapters, AKA Sam's college. So like if they want to join college Democrats, they wouldn't be able to. So they're going to join our college caucus, and then that will help them become a member of their college. The same with high schools. A lot of our high schools won't allow high school Democrat chapters. especially like in my county, in Dorchester County, like they definitely won't allow anyone with the D, but if you're an R, they're totally fine with it, you know. And so like if they join the high school caucus, then they can get membership into the High School Democrats of South Carolina as well. So it's a good partnership. And yeah, our college caucus is open to law school, grad school, undergrad, tech school, everything. So it's pretty awesome. And then starting a chapter for Chesterfield, that would be amazing for y'all to link up, and you and Kevin. Did you catch your name? I'm sorry, I didn't type it in the chat, or I didn't rename you on here. I'm so sorry.
Ashline. It's fine.
Can you say it again?
Ashline.
Ashlyn. Okay. And I believe I found your email on our sign up. There you are. Yes. Okay, perfect. So then Kevin would be contacting you. I'm guessing y'all have already linked. You were nodding your head like you did, Kevin.
I found her on our sign up sheet, so I can give you a call sometime this week or next week if that works for you, Ashlyn.
That's fine.
Awesome.
Perfect. Yeah, because we love to start a chapter. If you guys know anyone that want to start something in their area, all we need is 5 people. It can be up to 3 counties to start a chapter. And yeah, that's all they need. And then we walk them through creating bylaws and creating all that stuff needed. And yeah, moving forward with that. And on December 4th and 5th, everyone is invited to the Young Democrats of America Winter Conference. It is over Zoom. And it's just going to be a time they're going to be doing trainings nationally. And it's going to be caucus meetings and committee meetings and just ways to get involved on the national platform. To be a national member, you just have to be under the age of 36. And that way, we go up to the age of 40. So as soon as you turn 40, you age out of Young Democrats of South Carolina, but you actually can stay a member by being a Young at Heart member. So we hold on to them. So that way we can be like, hey, Young at Heart member, do you want to donate? Basically, joking there. But yeah, so the winter meeting is coming up December 4th and 5th. December 18th, the DNC is going to be in Charleston for a special meeting. The Democratic National Committee, some of the officers, and all of the presidents, sorry, that's YDA language, chairs of the state parties are going to be in Charleston for a special DNC meeting. And also the president of Young Democrats of America, who's a DNC member, will be coming. So we're trying to organize something fun to do that day on Saturday, December 18th, if anyone's interested in coming down to the Low Country. And yeah, like I just really hope to get more people involved in YDSC and just keep growing. We are growing every month, and I just really appreciate y'all coming to this, and let me know if you have any questions as well.
Oh, and also just, plugging in our high school caucus as well. I know Ashlyn, you reached out and said you wanted to be a part of that. So you should have more information on that coming your way soon. But yeah, we're definitely excited to having you and getting the high school caucus started as well.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I have a kind of general question, but besides getting involved in our local chapters and the events that are more at the statewide level, is there anything else that is being worked on at the state level, whether it's prep for 2022 related or anything like that we could get involved in?
So our national committee members have been kind of doing some of the trainings. Where the biggest focus that a lot of our trainings are going to be at is our state convention. Our state convention, you probably have already heard some secrets about it.
Yeah, I'm working with David on some stuff.
Yeah, so like I'm about to say, you probably have some insider knowledge.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to do it in Myrtle Beach in April-ish. May-ish, whatever the dates are that they came up with. And then that's going to be some more of our bigger trainings. We try to do a monthly training on some things. We do trainings for our caucus leader, chapter and caucus leadership, and then they bring it back to their chapters. I do still need to send out video recordings for some of our chapter chairs and stuff. And then with getting candidates ready, so like we've been trying to do stuff, link people to SCDP for running for office and stuff, because like we push the Democratic platform, we really are working towards registering more people. We're working with the Register 46. We plan on doing like a big thing with Register 46, but we're also a nonprofit. YDSC is classified as a nonprofit in the state, and that's because like we don't have to pay taxes, we don't have to file reports and stuff, so it's a little bit different. And like candidate recruitment, that's the counties, but like anybody who wants to run in 2022 and then running campaigns in 2022, like we have tools for all of that. Like we did a lot of really good trainings last year as well. The website's being rebuilt, and all of our trainings from that will be on the website from last season, our last convention. And that was like how to start your campaign, how to do TikTok, like how to run social media trainings, how to do environmentalism panels and stuff. Like all that's going to be available on our website. It's just the website's being rebuilt. If anyone's interested in joining communications committee with our comms team, we really need it, because we're all volunteers. We're all young people volunteering in 15 different organizations at once.
Well, I am not a like website developer by any means, but my background is comms, media relations, and all that. So if you all do need help on the comm side, would absolutely love to get involved.
Awesome. And then we have 3 committees that do a lot. So we have our rules committee, our platform committee, and our endorsements committee. And so the platform is we're supposed to be working on updates to the platform. We finally passed our first platform this year. We've never had a platform before. And we passed our first endorsements policy. So in 2022, we're going to be allowed to endorse candidates for the first time ever. So I'm pretty excited about that, because we know in California YD, when they endorse candidates, it's a big deal. So like now we're endorsing candidates.
The Instagram stories are very aggressive, I'll put it that way.
Yes. And so we're pretty excited about that. We do other trainings like Robert's Rules of Order. So we've done a 3-part Robert's Rules of Order training. And then they're going to bring back season 2 of that as well. Because teaching people Robert's rules, like it could really help, and especially in county party meetings, like using Robert's rules and getting through all that. A lot of our people are currently in the Clyburn fellowship, like of course DeVita and stuff. And we're looking at ways to formulate something, but the resources that SCDP and Emerge have are a lot different than us, but we make sure that candidates that want to run, we're pointing them in the right directions. Or if people want to work on campaigns, we're linking them to campaigns. Like I know Dr. Annie Andrews just posted that she's hiring interns, paid interns, for her congressional campaign. A lot of campaigns have not announced because of redistricting.
And the deadline's in what, like
March,
early March anyways.
But I mean, bless you.